Lisa woke up before dawn the next morning, knowing that General Fakemar would be waiting for her in the training center. She had barely slept, her mind racing with thoughts about the confrontation in his office. The general's words echoed in her head. You will report for extra training every day at dawn. She dressed quietly, trying not to wake Zix. Her alien roommate was still sleeping, its forearms folded neatly across its chest. Lisa envied Zix's peaceful rest. She wished she could sleep without dreaming about angry yellow eyes and scaled fists. The academy corridors were empty at this early hour. Lisa's footsteps echoed off the metal walls as she made her way to the training center. The morning light of Kepler 442b filtered through the tall windows, casting long shadows on the floor. General Fakemar was already waiting when she arrived. He stood in the center of the combat ring, wearing full military fatigues instead of his usual training clothes. His massive frame looked even more intimidating in the dim morning light. "You're late," he said, though Lisa knew she was exactly on time. "My apologies, sir," Lisa replied, not wanting to argue. "Today you will learn what real combat feels like," the general announced. "No rules, no safety equipment, no mercy." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Academy regulations require protective gear during all combat training. What the general was suggesting was against every safety protocol. "Sir, Academy rules state that I make the rules here," Fakemar interrupted. "You wanted to prove that humans are warriors? Then prove it." For the next hour, the general put Lisa through the most brutal training session of her life. He made her fight holographic opponents that moved faster and hit harder than anything she had faced before. When she made mistakes, he screamed at her in the Korvaxi language. When she succeeded, he increased the difficulty. Lisa's body ached from countless impacts. Her uniform was torn and stained with sweat. But she did not quit. Every time she fell down, she got back up. Every time the general told her she was weak, she proved him wrong by continuing. Other cadets began arriving for their regular morning classes. They gathered at the edges of the training center, watching in fascination and horror as General Fakemar pushed Lisa beyond her limits. "Look at the human," she heard one alien cadet whisper. "She is still fighting?" "Impossible," another replied. "How is she still standing?" Jake Thompson arrived with a group of human cadets. His face went pale when he saw what was happening to Lisa. "This is not right," he said to his companions. "We should report this to Admiral Kefti." But before any of them could act, the regular training session began. General Fakemar finally allowed Lisa to rest, but only because he had other cadets to instruct. "Same time tomorrow, Martinez," he said with satisfaction. "We will continue your education." Lisa limped to the medical bay to treat her injuries. The automated healing systems repaired her cuts and bruises, but they could not heal the damage to her spirit. She was beginning to wonder if the general was right about humans being too weak for military service. The next few days followed the same pattern. Dawn training sessions with General Fakemar that pushed Lisa to her breaking point, followed by regular classes where she struggled to concentrate through her exhaustion and pain. Her performance in academic subjects began to suffer. She fell asleep during alien history class and gave wrong answers in tactical theory. Her instructors noticed the decline, but said nothing, perhaps because they knew what General Fakemar was doing to her. Zix tried to help by bringing her extra food and offering to share study notes. But Lisa was too tired and discouraged to accept much assistance. "You should report this harassment," Zix said one evening as Lisa collapsed onto her bed. "What the general is doing is not legal under Academy regulations." "It would not matter," Lisa replied, staring at the ceiling. "They would just say I could not handle the training. It would prove I do not belong here." "That is not true," Zix insisted. "You have proven yourself many times over. The general is trying to break you because he fears what you represent." "What do I represent?" Lisa asked. "Change," Zix said simply. "The possibility that the old ways of thinking about strength and warfare might be wrong. The crisis came during the third week of Lisa's extra training sessions. General Thakmer had designed a new exercise specifically for her, a complex battle simulation that required her to lead a mixed species unit against overwhelming odds. Lisa was exhausted before the simulation even began. Weeks of dawn training sessions had worn her down physically and mentally. But she forced herself to focus on the task at hand. The simulation placed her in command of a small outpost under attack by enemy forces. She had to coordinate the defense. Using troops from different species, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. As the simulation progressed, Lisa found herself thinking more clearly than she had in days. The tactical challenges awakened something in her mind that had been dormant during the brutal physical training. She began to see patterns and possibilities that others miss. She used Korvaxi's strength for the main defensive line, but positioned them in ways that maximized their effectiveness. She deployed Centaurian scouts to gather intelligence and strike at enemy weak points. She coordinated Nexari calculations with Montari pattern recognition to predict enemy movements. But most importantly, she adapted her strategy as the situation changed. When the enemy tried new tactics, she countered with innovations of her own. When they brought unexpected weapons, she found creative ways to neutralize them. The simulation ended with another perfect victory. Lisa had not only defended the outpost, but had turned the attack into a counteroffensive that destroyed the entire enemy force. The cadets watching the exercise erupted in amazement. Even alien species that had been critical of humans before were now talking excitedly about Lisa's performance. Did you see how she coordinated those 3 different attack vectors? The way she used the terrain was brilliant. I have never seen anything like that tactical adaptation. But General Thakmer was not pleased. As the other cadets congratulated Lisa, she could see the rage building in his yellow eyes. His massive hands clenched into fists, and his breathing became heavy and labored. "Cadets dismissed," he ordered the crowd. "All except Martinez." The training center emptied quickly, leaving Lisa alone with the furious general. She stood at attention, knowing that something terrible was about to happen, but not sure what she could do to prevent it. "You think you are special," Thakmer said, his voice low and dangerous. "You think your little victories mean something." "I was just trying to complete the exercise, sir," Lisa replied. "You were showing off," the general snarled, "making fools of your betters with your arrogant human tricks." Lisa felt her own temper beginning to rise. She was tired of being called weak, tired of having her achievements dismissed as tricks or luck. "Sir, with respect, I was following standard military doctrine as taught by this academy. My performance was within acceptable parameters according to do not quote regulations to me." Thakmer roared, stepping closer to her. "I have been a warrior since before your pathetic species learned to walk upright." "Sir, I was not trying." You were not trying?" The general's voice rose to a bellow that echoed throughout the empty training center. "You think this is a game? You think war is about clever strategies and creative thinking?" Lisa stood her ground, even though every instinct told her to run. "Sir, I believe effective military leadership requires—" "You believe?" Thakmer interrupted, his voice dripping with contempt. "What you believe does not matter. You are nothing. Your species is nothing. You are soft, weak mammals who have no business calling yourselves warriors." The words hit Lisa like physical blows, but this time she did not back down. Something inside her had finally reached its limit. "That is not true," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. General Thakmer stopped his ranting and stared at her in disbelief. "What did you say?" "I said that is not true, sir. Humans may be different from other species, but we are not weak. We have our own strengths, our own ways of fighting. Just because we do not look like traditional warriors does not mean we cannot be effective soldiers." The general's face went dark with fury. "How dare you contradict me? How dare you question my judgment?" "I am not questioning your judgment about military matters, sir, but I am questioning your assumptions about my species." Lisa knew she had crossed a line, but she could not stop herself. Weeks of harassment, exhaustion, and verbal abuse had finally broken through her military discipline. Humans have survived on a dangerous planet for thousands of years, she continued. We have fought wars, explored unknown territories, and overcome challenges that would have destroyed other species. We may not have natural weapons or armor, but we have intelligence, adaptability, and the will to never give up. General Fakemur's hands were shaking with rage. You insolent little! And furthermore, Lisa said, her voice growing stronger, the simulation results speak for themselves. I have consistently outperformed other cadets in tactical exercises. That is not luck or tricks. That is skill and training. The silence that followed was deafening. For a long moment, General and cadets stared at each other across the empty training center. Lisa could see the battle raging behind Fakemur's yellow eyes, his military training. The combat ring was surrounded by hundreds of alien faces, all watching with intense interest. Some looked curious, others excited, and many seemed to be waiting for Lisa to fail. The air buzzed with whispered conversations in dozens of different languages. Lisa stood in the center of the ring, wearing the standard Academy training uniform. Across from her, Vextar looked like a mountain of muscle and scales. He was nearly twice her height and probably 4 times her weight. His claws gleamed under the training center's bright lights. Are you ready to surrender, human? Vextar called out, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. I will make this quick if you admit defeat now. Lisa did not answer. She had learned from her father that talking during a fight was usually a sign of nervousness. Instead, she focused on her breathing and studied her opponent's stance. General Fakemur stepped forward to officiate the match. This is a formal challenge fight, he announced, his voice booming through the training center. Standard Academy. Rules apply. The fight continues until one cadet yields or is unable to continue. The general's yellow eyes fixed on Lisa. Do you wish to withdraw your acceptance of this challenge? Lisa knew this was her last chance to back down. She could claim illness or injury and avoid the fight, but doing so would confirm everything. The alien cadets believed about human weakness. No, sir, she said clearly. I accept the challenge. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some aliens seemed surprised by her courage, while others shook their heads at what they saw as foolishness. Begin, General Fakemur commanded. Vextar immediately charged forward, using his massive size to try to overwhelm Lisa. This was exactly what she had expected. Korvaxi fighters relied on their strength and aggression, preferring to end fights quickly before their opponents could think of strategies. Lisa moved to the side at the last second, letting Vextar's momentum carry him past her. She struck at his knee as he went by, targeting a pressure point she had studied in alien anatomy classes. The blow would not seriously hurt him, but it would slow him down. Vextar stumbled but caught himself quickly. He turned around, his eyes now showing respect for Lisa's speed. Clever human, but cleverness will not save you. This time he approached more carefully, using his long reach to try to grab her. Lisa ducked under his massive arms and struck at his ribs, again targeting specific points that would cause pain without permanent damage. The crowd began to murmur loudly. Lisa was not just surviving against a much larger opponent. She was actually landing hits. For the next several minutes, the fight continued in this pattern. Vextar would attack with overwhelming force, and Lisa would use her speed and knowledge to avoid his strikes while landing her own. She was fighting a war of attrition, hoping to wear down her opponent's strength and patience, but Lisa was getting tired. Each dodge took energy, and Vextar's attacks were getting closer to connecting. She needed to end this fight soon, or her. Exhaustion would make her careless. Vextar seemed to sense her growing fatigue. He pressed his attack harder, throwing punch after punch with his massive fists. Lisa barely managed to avoid a strike that would have broken her ribs. You cannot run forever, little human, Vextar growled. Breathing hard from his own exertion, Lisa waited for her moment. When Vextar threw another wild punch, she stepped inside his guard and struck at his solar plexus with precise force. The blow knocked the wind out of him, and he staggered backward. Before he could recover, Lisa grabbed his arm and used the throw her father had taught her. She used Vextar's own weight against him, sending the massive Korvaxi crashing to the ground. Training Center erupted in shocked silence. Vextar lay on his back, stunned by the fall. Lisa stood over him, breathing hard but victorious. "Do you yield?" she asked quietly. Vextar looked up at her with something that might have been respect. "I yield," he said, his voice carrying clearly. Through the silent crowd, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Some cadets cheered, others booed, and many simply stared in disbelief. A human had just defeated one of the strongest Korvaxi cadets in single combat. General Thakmer's face was a mask of fury. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to be weak, easily defeated by superior alien warriors. Lisa's victory challenged everything he believed about the natural order of species. "Interesting technique," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "But real combat is not a training exercise with rules and safety measures. In war, such tricks will get you killed." Lisa met his gaze steadily. "With respect, sir, I was not using tricks. I was using proper technique and strategy." The general's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Do not lecture me about combat, cadet. I was fighting real battles when your species was still learning to make fire." "Yes, sir," Lisa replied. But she did not look away. Something in her expression seemed to anger the general even more. As the crowd began to disperse, Lisa found herself surrounded by a mix of admirers and critics. Some alien cadets congratulated her on a well-fought victory. Others muttered about luck and unfair advantages. Zix approached her with what Lisa had learned was the Mentari equivalent of a smile. "That was most impressive, Lisa Martinez. You have given many cadets something to think about." Jake Thompson also came over, his face showing both pride and concern. "That was amazing, Lisa. But I think you might have made General Thakmer really angry." Lisa looked across the training center to where the general stood talking with several Korvaxi instructors. Their body language suggested they were not happy with what had just happened. "I know," she said, "but I could not let Vextar win. It would have been open season on all the human cadets." Over the following days, Lisa noticed a change in how other cadets treated her. Some showed her new respect, nodding when she passed them in the corridors. Others seemed more hostile than before, as if her victory had somehow insulted them personally. But the biggest change was in General Thakmer's behavior. The Korvaxi instructor began targeting Lisa even more aggressively. During training sessions, he paired her with multiple opponents at once, gave her impossible tasks, and criticized everything she did. Martinez, he would bark during combat drills. "Your stance is weak. Your technique is sloppy. In real battle, you will be dead within seconds." Lisa endured the harassment without complaint, but it was wearing her down. She began to doubt herself. Wondering if the general was right about her abilities, the breaking point came during a tactical simulation exercise. The academy used advanced computer programs to test cadets' strategic thinking. Teams of cadets would be given military scenarios and asked to develop battle plans. Lisa was assigned to lead a team that included cadets from 6 different species. The scenario was a planetary defense mission where they had to protect the civilian population from an invading force. Most military doctrine taught by the academy followed predictable patterns. Different species had developed strategies based on their natural strengths. The Korvaxi preferred direct assault. The Zentarians favored quick strikes and retreats. The Nexari used complex calculations to predict enemy movements, but Lisa's human brain worked differently. She looked at the scenario and saw possibilities that others miss. Instead of following standard doctrine, she developed a plan that combined elements from multiple species strategies. Her team would use Korvaxi strength for the initial defense, Zentarian speed for rapid repositioning, and Nexari calculations for resource management. But the overall strategy was something entirely new, a flexible approach that could adapt to changing circumstances. The simulation began with the enemy force launching a massive attack against the planet's main city. Most cadet teams would have met this attack head-on, using their strongest forces to repel the invasion. Lisa did something unexpected. She ordered a strategic retreat, drawing the enemy forces into a trap. While they were focused on pursuing what they thought was a defeated army, Lisa's team struck at their supply lines, and communication centers the enemy found themselves cut off from reinforcements and unable to coordinate their attacks. Lisa's forces then counterattacked from multiple directions, using the enemy's own momentum against them. The simulation ended with a complete victory for Lisa's team. They had not only defended the planet, but had destroyed the entire enemy force with minimal casualties. The other cadets in the simulation center stared at the results in amazement. Lisa had achieved something none of them had thought possible, a perfect score on one of the Academy's most difficult tactical exercises. But General Thukmar was not impressed. In fact, he seemed angrier than ever. "Cadet Martinez," he said, his voice cold with rage, "report to my office immediately after this session." Lisa felt her heart sink. She had performed perfectly, but somehow that seemed to make things worse. In the general's office, surrounded by weapons and battle trophies from across the galaxy, Lisa stood at attention while Thakmer paced behind his desk like a caged predator. "Think you are clever," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You think your little tricks make you a warrior." "I was just trying to complete the mission, sir," Lisa replied. "You were showing off," the general snapped, "making the other cadets look foolish with your human arrogance." Lisa felt a flash of anger. "Sir, I was leading my team to the best of my ability. The results speak for themselves." The weeks that followed Lisa's first combat training session were harder than anything she had experienced before. General Thakmer seemed to have made it his personal mission to prove that humans did not belong at the Academy. Every training exercise became a test designed to break her spirit. "Martinez," the general would bark across the training floor, his voice echoing off the metal walls. "You will partner with Kethra today." Lisa looked at her assigned partner and felt her heart sink. Kethra was a stone high from the mining world of Granite Prime. She stood 8 feet tall, and her skin looked like living rock. Her people were known for their incredible strength and their ability to crush diamonds with their bare hands. "This is not fair," Zix whispered to Lisa as they prepared for the exercise. "He keeps giving you the strongest opponents." "I know," Lisa replied, checking her protective gear. "But complaining won't help. I just have to prove I can handle it." The exercise was simple in concept, but brutal in execution. Each pair of cadets had to work together to carry a heavy metal beam across an obstacle course. The beam weighed over 500 pounds and required perfect coordination between partners. Kethra looked down at Lisa with something that might have been pity. "Small human, I will carry the beam. You just try to keep up." But the exercise was designed so that both partners had to lift together. When Kethra tried to carry the beam alone, it triggered sensors that added more weight. Soon the beam was too heavy even for the powerful Stonehide. "We have to work together," Lisa said, grabbing her end of the beam. Trust me, what followed was unlike anything the other cadets had seen before. Lisa could not match Kethra's strength, but she could think. She analyzed the obstacle course, planned their route, and used physics to their advantage. When they reached a wall they had to climb, Lisa showed Kethra how to use the beam as a lever. When they came to a narrow bridge, Lisa guided them across by balancing their different weights. They finished the course in record time. General Thakmer watched the whole exercise with growing anger. His yellow eyes burned with frustration as the other cadets cheered for the unlikely partnership. "Luck," he muttered. "Pure luck." But it was not luck, and everyone in the Academy was starting to notice. Lisa was different from the other cadets, human or alien. She had a way of seeing solutions that others miss. When faced with a problem, most species would use their natural strengths. The Korvaxi would use force. The Zentarians would use speed. The Nexari would use calculations. Lisa would use everything at once. Her success was making enemies. Vexstar, the Korvaxi cadet she had defeated on the first day, began spreading rumors about her. He told other cadets that humans were cheaters, who used dirty tricks instead of honorable combat. She does not fight like a warrior, he complained to his friends in the dining hall. She fights like a coward. The harassment was not just from Korvaxi cadets. Other species began to resent Lisa's success as well. The Ironbacks, massive creatures that looked like walking tanks, believed that combat should be about strength and endurance. The Swiftwings, bird-like beings with incredible speed, thought that victory should come from superior reflexes and agility. To them, Lisa's victories felt like cheating. One evening, as Lisa walked back to her dormitory after a particularly difficult day, she found her path blocked by 3 Korvaxi cadets. Vexstar stood in the center, flanked by 2 others almost as large as he was. "Human," Vexstar said, his voice low and threatening. "You think you are clever, but you are just a weak little animal pretending to be a soldier." Lisa's heart began to race, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm just trying to do my best, same as everyone else." "Your best is not good enough," one of the other Korvaxi said. "You do not belong here. You should go back to your little planet and leave war to real warriors." Lisa wanted to run, but she knew that would only make things worse. Her father had taught her that bullies respected strength, even if that strength came in an unexpected form. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, standing as tall as her 5'4" frame would allow. "I earned my place here, just like you did." Vexstar stepped closer, using his size to intimidate her. "You earned nothing. You are here because the Academy needed to fill a quota. Everyone knows it." "That's not true," Lisa said, but even as she spoke, she wondered if it was. Had she really earned her place, or was she here because the Academy wanted to look inclusive? "Prove it," Vexstar challenged. "Fight me. No rules, no tricks, just strength against strength." Lisa knew this was a trap. In a pure strength contest, she would lose badly. But backing down would confirm everything the alien cadets believed about humans. "I'll fight you," she said, "but in the training center with proper supervision. If you want to settle this, we do it the right way." Vexstar's eyes narrowed. He had hoped to provoke her into a fight right here in the corridor, where no one would witness what happened. But Lisa's challenge put him in a difficult position. If he refused, he would look like a coward. "Fine," he said. "Tomorrow, after classes, we will see what humans are really made of." News of the challenge spread through the Academy like wildfire. By the next morning, everyone knew that Lisa Martinez would face Vexstar in single combat. The betting pools were heavily stacked against her. Jake Thompson, one of the other human cadets, found Lisa during lunch. Jake was from Ohio, a quiet guy who preferred studying the fighting. He had been struggling with the physical demands of the Academy. "Lisa, you can't do this," he said, sitting down across from her. "Vexstar is twice your size. He could seriously hurt you." "I know," Lisa replied, pushing her food around on her plate. "But if I back down now, it will be open season on all the human cadets. They'll know we're scared." "Maybe we should report this to the Academy administration," Jake suggested. "Challenge fights aren't supposed to happen." Lisa shook her head. "That would just prove their point. They'd say humans can't handle problems on their own." Zix approached their table, carrying a bowl of the purple moss that seemed to be its favorite. "Food. May I join you?" "Of course," Lisa said. She had grown fond of her alien roommate. Zix was one of the few beings at the Academy who treated her with genuine respect. "I heard about your challenge," Zix said, settling into a chair that had been specially designed for its 4-armed body. "The Korvaxi are talking about it in all their classes. They think this will finally prove that humans are weak. What do you think?" Lisa asked. Zix was quiet for a moment, its compound eyes reflecting the light from the dining hall windows. I think they are going to be very surprised. That evening, Lisa prepared for the fight with more care than she had ever prepared for anything. She studied videos of Korvaxi combat techniques, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses. She practiced meditation techniques her father had taught her, centering her mind and controlling her fear. But she also did something else. She called home. The communication took several minutes to connect across the vast distance between Kepler 442b and Earth. When her father's face appeared on the screen, Lisa felt tears threaten to fall. "Dad," she said, her voice shaking slightly, "I need advice." Colonel Martinez looked at his daughter with concern. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Lisa told him everything. The discrimination, the harassment, the challenge fight that awaited her tomorrow. Her father listened without interruption, his expression growing more serious with each word. "Lisa," he said when she finished, "do you remember what I taught you about fighting? That it's not about being the strongest," Lisa recited. "It's about being the smartest and the most prepared." "That's right. And do you remember the most important rule?" Lisa nodded. "Never fight angry. Anger makes you stupid. Your opponent will be angry tomorrow. He will want to hurt you, to humiliate you. That anger will make him careless." Colonel Martinez leaned forward, his eyes intense. "But you will be calm. You will be smart. And you will show them what humans are really capable of." After the call ended, Lisa sat in her room and thought about everything her father had taught her. She thought about the long hours in the dojo, learning that technique could overcome strength. She thought about the discipline required to turn her body into a weapon while keeping her mind clear and focused. Tomorrow, she would face the biggest challenge of her life. But tonight, she felt ready. The next evening, the Academy's main training center was packed with cadets from dozens of different species. Word had spread beyond the Academy walls, and even some of the instructors had come to watch. General Thakmer stood at the edge of the combat area, his scaled face showing satisfaction. Finally, he would see a human put in her proper place. Lisa walked into the center of the ring, her heart pounding but her mind clear. Across from her, Vextar flexed his massive muscles and roared a challenge in the Korvaxi language. The crowd fell silent. The real test was about to begin. Lisa Martinez stood at the edge of the transport platform, her small duffel bag clutched tightly in her hands. The morning sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the massive Academy grounds before her. Buildings made of gleaming metal and strange alien materials stretched as far as she could see. Flying vehicles moved silently between the towers, carrying alien beings she had only seen in pictures before. She was 19 years old and very far from home. The girl from Houston, Texas, had never imagined she would end up here at the most famous military school in the galaxy. The Galactic Defense Institute trained the best officers from dozens of different worlds. Out of millions of humans who applied, only 12 had been accepted this year. Lisa was one of them. The transport platform buzzed with activity. Creatures of all shapes and sizes moved past her with purpose. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others on 4 or 6. A few floated in the air using technology Lisa did not understand. Their skin came in every color she could imagine: blue, green, purple, silver, and some that seemed to change color as they moved. Lisa felt very small and very alone. A tall figure approached her. It had 4 arms and looked like a giant insect, walking upright. Its large compound eyes reflected the sunlight in rainbow patterns. Lisa tried not to stare, but she had never seen anything like it. "You must be one of the new human cadets," the creature said in perfect English. Its voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I am Zix, from the Mentari Empire. I will be your roommate." Lisa blinked in surprise. "My roommate? But you single quotes double quotes, not human." Zix tilted its head, which Lisa realized was probably the alien equivalent of a smile. The Academy believes different species learn better when they live together. Do not worry. I do not bite, and I have been told humans are quite pleasant to be around. Lisa felt some of her tension ease. I'm Lisa Martinez. Nice to meet you. The pleasure is mine, Lisa Martinez. Come, I will show you to our quarters. Then, we can explore the academy together. As they walked through the academy grounds, Zix pointed out important buildings. The Combat Training Center was a massive dome that seemed to shimmer with energy. The academic halls were tall towers connected by bridges that floated in the air with no visible support. The dining facility was a circular building that rotated slowly, giving everyone a view of the surrounding landscape. There are students from 43 different worlds here, Zix explained as they walked. Each species brings their own strengths. The Korvaxi are the strongest fighters. The Centaurians are the best pilots. The Nexari can calculate faster than computers. And humans? What about humans? Lisa asked. Zix was quiet for a moment. Humans are ... interesting. Many species do not understand why you were accepted into the academy. They think you are too weak, too slow, too fragile. Lisa's heart sank. She had feared this would happen. What do you think? I think, Zix said carefully, that any species that can survive and spread across their entire planet in just a few thousand years must have something special. The Academy commanders are not fools. They must see something in humans that others do not. Their dormitory room was simple but comfortable. 2 beds, 2 desks, and a large window that looked out over the training grounds. Lisa unpacked her few belongings while Zix arranged its own items with its 4 arms moving in perfect coordination. Tell me about your world, Lisa said as she folded her clothes. Montari is a jungle world with 3 moons. My people build our cities in the trees, sometimes miles above the ground. We are good at seeing patterns and solving puzzles. That is why I'm here, to learn military strategy. Zix paused its unpacking. What about Earth? I have heard it is mostly water. About 70%, Lisa said. I live near the coast in Texas, lots of open space, hot summers, and the best barbecue in the galaxy. I do not know what barbecue is, Lisa grinned. When I graduate, I'll take you to Earth and show you. The next morning, Lisa got her first real taste of academy life. The dining hall was enormous, with sections designed for different species' dietary needs. Some aliens ate things that looked like glowing crystals. Others consumed liquids that changed color as they drank. The human section served familiar foods, but Lisa could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching her as she ate. They are curious, Zix explained, sitting across from her with a bowl of what looked like moving purple moss. Most have never seen a human before. You are still very new to the galactic community. After breakfast came orientation. Admiral Kefti, the Academy commander, was a Centaurian with gray skin and large black eyes. She stood 8 feet tall and spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. You are here because you represent the best your species has to offer, the Admiral told the assembled cadets. You will be challenged in ways you cannot imagine. Some of you will fail, some of you will quit, but those who succeed will become the defenders of peace in our galaxy. Lisa looked around. The Great Hall? She was one of maybe 30 humans scattered among hundreds of alien cadets. Most of the aliens were much larger than her. Many looked like they could tear her apart without effort. The first week was a blur of classes and evaluations. Lisa learned about alien cultures, galactic history, and military tactics used across dozens of worlds. She discovered that her human brain worked differently than many alien minds. While other species focus on their particular strengths, humans seem to think about problems from many angles at once. But the real challenge came during physical training. General Thagmar was a Korvaxi, standing 7 feet tall with scales that looked like armor plating. His arms were as thick as Lisa's waist, and his claws could probably cut through steel. He commanded the combat training program with the authority of someone who had fought in real wars. Combat is the ultimate test, he announced to the assembled. Cadets on their first day in the training center. Your enemy will not care about your diplomacy or your clever strategies. They will only care about destroying you. His yellow eyes swept over the crowd and stopped on the human cadets. Lisa could see the disdain in his gaze. Some species, he continued, are naturally suited for battle. Others ... He let the sentence hang in the air. Others are here because of politics, not ability. Lisa felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger. She knew he was talking about humans. She knew he was talking about her. The general divided the cadets into pairs for sparring practice. Lisa found herself matched against Vextar, a Korvaxi, cadet who was even larger than General Fakemar. The young alien warrior grinned, showing teeth like daggers. "Try not to get hurt too badly, little human," Vextar said. "I will be gentle." Lisa had been practicing martial arts since she was 6 years old. Her father, a military man himself, had taught her that size and strength were not everything. Speed, technique, and smart thinking could overcome raw power. The sparring session began. Vextar charged at her like a freight train, expecting to end the fight quickly. But Lisa was not where he expected her to be. She moved to the side, used his momentum against him, and sent him stumbling past her. The alien crowd murmured in surprise. Vextar turned around, his eyes narrow with anger. This time he was more careful, but Lisa was ready. She ducked under. His massive arms struck pressure points she had learned about in anatomy class and used leverage to throw him to the ground. General Fakemar watched with growing irritation. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were supposed to be weak. Again, he commanded. Lisa defeated Vextar twice more. Each time she used her opponent's strength against him. Each time, the alien spectators grew more interested and more surprised. When the training session ended, Lisa was exhausted but proud. She had proven that humans belonged here. But as she walked past General Fakemar, she heard him mutter under his breath in the Korvaxi language. Zix, who had been watching from the sidelines, translated for her later. "He said that clever tricks will not work in real combat," her roommate explained. "He said that humans are still just soft meat pretending to be warriors." Lisa stared out their dormitory window at the alien landscape. She had come so far from home, worked so hard to get here. But she was beginning to understand that her real fight was just beginning. The academy was supposed to teach her how to defend the galaxy. Instead, she was learning that she would first have to defend herself. Jake reached the cave entrance just as the sun was beginning to set. The opening was larger than he had expected, about 3 meters wide and carved into the side of a rocky hill. The storm had damaged the area around it, leaving broken crystal. Formations scattered like broken glass. He parked the rover near the entrance and checked his equipment one more time. His scanner showed that Kale's life signature was still there, about 200 meters inside the cave system. The readings were weak but steady, which meant the child was alive, but probably unconscious or sleeping. Jake put on his helmet with its built-in lights and communication system. He took his medical kit, emergency food, water, and digging tools. The plasma rifle stayed with him too, in case he encountered any dangerous creatures inside the caves. "Research station. This is Jake," he said into his radio. "I've reached the cave entrance. The child's signature is confirmed. I'm going in now." "Copy that, Jake," came Linda's voice. "Be careful in there. The geological surveys show the cave system is old and might not be stable after the storm." "I'll watch for rockfalls," Jake said. "Tell Lyra that I'm close to her son." Jake turned on his helmet lights and stepped into the cave. The air inside was cool and damp, and he could hear the sound of water dripping somewhere in the darkness. The walls were made of natural rock mixed with crystal formations that had grown over thousands of years. The main tunnel was wide enough for him to walk upright, but he could see smaller passages branching off in different directions. His scanner kept him on the right path, pointing him deeper into the cave system toward Kale's location. After walking for about 10 minutes, Jake came to a place where the tunnel split into 3 different paths. His scanner showed that Kale was down the middle passage, but that passage looked dangerous. There were loose rocks hanging from the ceiling, and Jake could see fresh cracks in the walls where the storm's vibrations had damaged the structure. "This doesn't look good," Jake muttered, examining the cracks with his flashlight. But it's the only way to reach the kid. He moved carefully down the middle passage, testing each step before putting his full weight down. The floor was covered with loose stones and crystal fragments that had fallen from the ceiling. Every few meters, he stopped to check his scanner and make sure he was still heading in the right direction. About halfway down the passage, Jake heard a sound that made him freeze. It was a low clicking noise, like claws on stone. He had heard that sound before, outside the cave when the scarf had attacked his rover. Jake drew his plasma rifle and listened carefully. The clicking was coming from somewhere ahead of him, in the direction he needed to go. It seemed like at least one Scarf had followed him into the cave system. "Great," Jake whispered. "Just what I needed." He moved forward slowly, keeping his weapon ready. The clicking sound got louder as he approached a bend in the tunnel. Jake peered around the corner and saw a single Scarf standing about 20 meters away. The creature was smaller than the ones he had fought outside, probably a young one that had been separated from its pack. The Scarf had not noticed him yet. It seemed to be sniffing the air, probably trying to track his scent or detect the presence of prey. Jake could see another passage behind the creature, and his scanner showed that Kale was somewhere down that passage. Jake aimed carefully and fired a single shot from his plasma rifle. The energy bolt struck the Scarf in the center of its body, and the creature collapsed without making a sound. Jake waited for a moment to make sure it was dead, then moved past it toward the next passage. This new tunnel was narrower and lower than the first one. Jake had to crouch as he walked, and his helmet scraped against the ceiling several times. The walls here were mostly natural rock with very few crystal formations, and the air smelled stale and old. After another 10 minutes of careful walking, Jake's scanner began beeping more rapidly. He was getting close to Kale's location. The tunnel opened up into a small chamber about the size of a bedroom, and Jake could see daylight coming from a crack in the ceiling high above. "Hello?" Jake called out. "Kale, are you here?" He heard a weak sound from the far side of the chamber, like someone trying to speak but not having enough strength. Jake hurried toward the sound and found a small figure huddled against the wall. It was Kale, and he was alive but in bad shape. The 4-year-old Zephyrim was conscious but barely able to move. His translucent skin was very pale, and Jake could see that he was dehydrated and probably hadn't eaten any since the storm. "Hey there, buddy," Jake said gently, kneeling beside the child. "My name is Jake. Your mom sent me to find you." Kale looked up at him with large silver eyes that were just like his mother's. He tried to speak, but his voice was too weak to understand. Jake gave him small sips of water and checked him for injuries. The child had some cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. The main problem was that he had been without food and water for 3 days. His body was shutting down from dehydration and hunger. "You're going to be okay," Jake said, giving Kale some emergency food that was designed to work for multiple species. "We're going to get you back to your mom." As Kale slowly ate the food and drank more water, Jake examined the chamber they were in. The child had been lucky to find this place. It was protected from the weather, and the crack in the ceiling had provided some light and fresh air. But it was also a trap. The only way in or out was through the narrow tunnel that Jake had just used. "Can you walk?" Jake asked Kale, who was starting to look a little better after eating. Kale nodded weakly and tried to stand up. He managed to get to his feet, but Jake could see that he was still very weak. The trip back through the caves would be difficult. For him, Jake put Kale on his back and started the journey back toward the cave entrance. The child was light, but carrying him while crouching through the narrow tunnel was hard work. Jake had to stop several times to rest and make sure Kale was okay. When they reached the wider tunnel, Jake thought the worst was over, but as they Approached the place where he had killed the scarf, he heard more clicking sounds echoing through the cave. The creature's pack had probably come looking for it, and now they were between Jake and the exit. "Stay quiet," Jake whispered to Kale, setting him down behind a large rock formation. "I need to deal with some bad creatures." Jake could see 3 adult Scarh moving down the tunnel toward them. These were much larger than the young one he had killed earlier, and they looked angry. They had found their dead pack member and were hunting for whoever had killed it. Jake positioned himself where he could see the creatures, but stay hidden behind the rocks. He checked his plasma rifle and saw that he had enough energy for about 6 more shots. You would have to make them count. The first Scarh came around the corner, and Jake shot it in the head. The creature dropped immediately, but its death cry alerted the others. The second Scarh charged toward Jake's position, moving faster than he had expected. Jake fired again, but the shot only wounded the creature. It kept coming, and Jake had to roll to the side to avoid its claws. He fired a third shot at close range and finally brought it down. The third Scarh was smarter than the others. It stayed back and tried to circle around Jake's position. Jake could hear it moving through the darkness, but he couldn't see it clearly enough to get a good shot. "Jake?" Kale whispered from behind the rocks. "What's happening?" "Just stay down," Jake said, trying to track the third creature's movement. "Everything's going to be okay." The scarf suddenly appeared from a side passage that Jake hadn't noticed before. It was only a few meters away, and Jake barely had time to aim before it attacked. His fourth shot caught the creature in the chest, but it wasn't enough to stop it completely. The Scarh crashed into Jake, knocking him backward. Its claws raked across his armor, leaving deep scratches but not penetrating to his skin. Jake struggled with the wounded creature for several seconds before he could get his rifle into position for a final shot. The energy bolt finally killed the scarf, but Jake was left breathing hard and shaking from the close call. "Is it over?" Kale asked, peering out from behind the rocks. "Yeah, it's over," Jake said, checking his armor for damage. "Let's get out of here before any more of them show up." He picked up Kale again and hurried toward the cave entrance. The child was getting stronger as the food and water did their work, but he was still too weak to walk the whole distance by himself. When they finally reached the cave entrance, Jake could see stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. His rover was exactly where he had left it, and there were no signs of more scarf in the area. "We made it, buddy," Jake said, setting Kale down beside the rover. "We're going home." Kale looked up at him with tears in his eyes. "Thank you for coming to find me. I thought no one would come." "Your mom was never going to give up on you," Jake said, helping the child into the rover. "She loves you very much." As they drove back toward the research station, Jake radioed ahead to let them know he had found Kale and that they were both safe. He could hear the relief in Linda's voice, and he knew that Lyra would be overjoyed to see her son again. The trip back took 2 hours, and Kale fell asleep in the passenger seat. Jake drove carefully through the dark landscape, thinking about what had just happened. He had risked his life to save a child from